Hi, my name's Jenna Van Nierop and I'm the Business Services Advisor at Smith Thornton Accountants. Part of my role is to help businesses do their budgets or their forecasts, and I'm here today to help you learn about budgeting and some money basics that will be really important for you once you leave Year 12. So what's going to happen after you leave Year 12? A lot of you will be doing things for the first time, and doing things for the first time comes a lot of responsibility, especially if you're moving out of home and you're making some decisions that your parents or your carers might have been making for you. Having the ability to make good decisions around your money is really important. Regardless of what you're doing, when you leave Year 12, there are a few things that all of you will need. You'll need a tax file number, you'll need a superannuation fund, and you'll need a bank account to work. Many of you will already be working and you already have these. But if you don't, look into them now so that you're ready when you need them, because they do take time to set up. You will also need a MyGov account so that when you go to lodge your tax returns, you've got access already. Through your MyGov account, you can access your Medicare and your Centrelink and all of these really important tools that you're going to need when you're out there in the big real world, making your own decisions and forging your own ways. It's also really important to have your own Medicare card. Up until now, you might have been on your family's Medicare card, but using a Medicare card becomes quite important, and having your own Medicare card just makes it easier for you to do a few things later on. Budgeting is a really important concept that's really handy to understand now and for the rest of your life. It allows you to think about what money you have and what your expenses are, what you're going to spend your money on, and how you're going to save some money for some really big things later on. When you're budgeting, you need to think about your income, the money that you're earning, all your expenses, the day-to-day costs that you might have, and also those costs that come up during the year that aren't irregular, but they're things that you need to consider just in case they happen. You can have a budget for the week, you can have a budget for the month, you can have a budget for the year. But if you think about the whole year, then you think about those things that don't happen all the time. You think about Christmas and presents, and you think about that time of the year where you need to get your car serviced, or the time of the year that you might go away and visit your family and have holiday expenses. So think about a whole year when you set your budget and you're trying to think about all of your costs for the year. Some expenses will be fixed. They'll be things that you spend all the time. They might be on groceries and phone bills and fuel for your car. And some expenses might be paid at some point during the year. The difference between your income and your expenses will be your savings and your spending. You might put some money aside to spend for the things that you want and the fun things, like going and buying some new shoes or going to a festival or getting some new clothes. But you also need to put some money away for a rainy day, have some savings or that financial cushion. It's really important to have that there for just in case things. A simple budget might look something like this. You'll have some income, some of you might have some government benefits, and you'll total up all of your income at the top. You'll go down, you'll look at your expenses that you've got every day or every week, like food and power and electricity, medical, your fuel, your car, getting to and from work. Some of you might have a loan that you need to pay. And then you also need to think about those things that happen sometimes. I might need to fix my car. I might need to take my pet to the vet. Or I might have some unexpected medical fees that I'm going to have to pay for. So you'll budget for that and you'll set some money aside to be able to afford to pay for those. Once you've taken away all of those expenses from your income, you've got your leftover money, which is where you allocate to your spending and your savings. In this example, I've given $100 a week to spending, and then we're putting away $5,100 to savings. It's also really useful to look at your budget and think about, what did I actually spend and what did I actually receive, and why are there differences? Is my budget unrealistic, or have I just been spending too much money? When you're really annoyed at your budget, think about and have a really good goal at the end for your savings. Think about something really important that you really want and keep that in mind when you're putting money away each week or each month to your savings, so it can keep you driven throughout the year to not touch that money that you're putting away. If you're a really bad saver, it might even be handy to have another bank account if the bank doesn't charge you too much money for this, because you can put it in that account and you know that any money in that account you don't touch. So if you're saving for your car and you know that you need to save up a good deposit to go and get it, or you want to save up cash to go get your car, put it in another bank account, don't touch it, and just let it grow. There are lots of tools and resources that you could search for online if you really want to learn more about budgeting. It's a really important tool for you guys to understand, so get online and search for some of these things. Different things will work for different people. You can go and look at websites and look at those resources. You can use tools and apps. Some of the major banks have great budgeting apps. You could go to Money Smart. You can read app reviews on Google. There's also some really great books if you like to read books. If you like watching Sunrise, or Koshi, who used to be on Sunrise, he also has some great budget planning tools that you can use if it's something that you want to learn more about. Tax is a really boring topic, but unfortunately, tax is something that we all need to pay. So if you can learn even the basics about tax, it will be a really good thing for you to know. When we work, we pay tax, and our employer takes some of our money and gives it to the tax office. The government uses tax to pay for services that everyone uses, like schools, hospitals, medicine, doctors, parks, playgrounds, roads and railways. The more money you earn, the more tax you pay. If you earn less than the tax-free threshold, which at the moment is $18,200, you don't pay any tax. But as you earn more money, you pay more money to the government. If you've had a job during school, you may not have earned enough money for your employer to take some tax out of your pay. But as you leave school and you earn more money, you will notice that your employer starts taking some money out. This is called pay-as-you-go withholdings. It's your employer putting some money away, paying it to the ATO throughout the year, so that at the end of the year you don't have a giant tax bill that you need to pay back and find money for. If during the year you've paid too much tax, you'll get a refund, which is great. If throughout the year you haven't paid enough tax, then you're going to owe the ATO some money. If you're a terrible saver, you can actually use pay-as-you-go withholdings as a way of saving money. You can ask your employer to withhold more tax than they need to, so at the end of the year, when you lodge your tax return, you get a big amount paid back to you that you can use to put towards big ticket items, or even to put into a separate savings bank account to save for your car or that big thing that you're looking to buy. If your only income is the wage that you earn, then it's really simple to do your tax return online yourself. You can do this via My Tax, which can be accessed through MyGov or the ATO app. When we earn, we pay superannuation to our superannuation fund. Super is a way of saving up money throughout your working life so that when you retire, you've got some money to live off when you're no longer working. This is the government's way of forcing us to save, essentially, while we work, and it's your employer's responsibility to take superannuation from your pay and put it into your super fund. Be careful when choosing your super fund. Look out for fees. You don't want your hard-earned money to get eaten up by fees. Do research. If you want to look at moneysmart.gov.au, they have great articles around some of the things to look out for when you're choosing your super fund. Don't worry if you choose the wrong one. It's easy enough to change it later. But the important thing is to try and only have one super fund. It makes it easier for you to keep track of your super, and it also ensures that you're not paying too many fees and seeing all of your hard-earned money getting eaten up by fees over the years. Always check your pay slips and make sure that your employer is putting super on your pay slip. Then always check your super fund to make sure that that money is entering your super fund. If you find that this is not happening, make sure you approach your employer and ask them about it. And if that doesn't help, then contact the ATO to follow it up. It's really important that throughout your working life, you make sure you're getting your super paid to you. If you leave school and you become a contractor, you need to also think about putting money away in super for yourself. You're not going to have a boss that will do this for you, so you need to make sure that you have a super fund and you're putting regular contributions into your super fund so that when you retire, you do have some money. If you're working for your uncle or getting paid cash or anything like that, and you're not getting regular super contributions put into your super fund by your boss, then you need to make sure that you're doing this yourself. Sometimes we really want something now that we can't afford. Banks can offer you a loan that allows you to buy something now and pay it back over many years. But when the banks offer you a loan, they're providing you with a service. And when someone provides you with a service, they charge you a fee. The fee that the banks charge you is called interest. So when you take out a loan, you're not only paying back the amount that you borrowed, so if you bought a $20,000 car, you're not only paying back $20,000, you're also paying back interest, which can end up actually being quite expensive. If you're considered to be a high-risk lender, you will be charged more interest. Interest can make buying something much more expensive than you really realise. So before you sign a loan agreement, ask yourself, do I really need this now, or could I save up for longer? Do I need to spend this much money? Can I afford this loan? Could I get a lower interest rate from another bank? I'm now just going to go through some quick examples to show you the impact that interest rates and other things to do with loans have on the amount of money that you end up paying for something that you buy. In this example, I'm showing you the impact that interest has on buying a $20,000 car. So you're going to pay this car back over 5 years. The interest rate could range from anything in this example from 7% to 17%. 17% is not unrealistic for a car that's old and for someone that doesn't have much of a history of taking out loans. So paying back this car over 5 years could cost you anything between $3,760 to almost $10,000. That's a huge difference. So you need to make sure when you're taking out a loan for your car, for example, you should shop around, you should look at the interest rates, and you should look at the terms of the loans that the banks are offering you. In this example, we're looking at a car that's worth anything from $15,000 to $35,000. The interest rate's 12%, and we're going to pay it back over 5 years. You could pay anywhere between $5,000 and $12,000 in interest for your $20,000 car. So for a $15,000 car, you could end up paying $20,000, the difference being $5,000 interest. For a $35,000 car, you could end up paying $46,000, the difference being $11,000 in interest. So when you're deciding on what car you need to buy, have a good think about, do I really need this expensive car? Or could I make do with a cheaper car that still is reliable? Because the more money I borrow, the more interest I'm going to pay. Paying back a car over 5, 6 or 7 years also impacts the amount of interest that you pay. In this example, the interest paid ranges from $6,000 to almost $10,000. It's really important to understand that the quicker you pay back a loan, the cheaper it will be. Another type of loan is a credit card. Essentially, the bank could offer you a credit card. You could use it during the month, and as long as you pay it back at the end of the month, you're not charged any interest. But lots of people take out credit cards, buy a lot of things that they can't afford, and at the end of the month, they can't afford to pay their bill. So then the bank charges them interest. Interest on credit cards is very, very high, and I really recommend that you stay away from credit cards. If you don't pay interest to the bank will then add that to your credit card balance. So essentially, you're paying interest on interest. This is a really crazy cycle to get into. It's very unaffordable, and it gets a lot of people into a lot of trouble financially. So please stay away from credit cards. If there's something that you want that you can't afford, just prioritise things. Maybe get it later, choose something cheaper, or look at alternatives that you can get. So in summary, credit cards are really, really expensive. You're charged really high interest rates, and people get themselves into great financial troubles using them irresponsibly. Stay away from credit cards, and if you really need something, that's what your rainy day funds are, or your just in case savings are for. Use those instead and save up some money. Afterpay is also a type of loan. Lots of kids your age and young adults use Afterpay often. It's something that allows you to buy something now, but pay for it later. Afterpay is a really risky way of paying for something though, because the people that offer Afterpay don't do any checks on you. They don't actually know whether you could afford the item that you're buying and whether that you can afford the Afterpay repayments. Unlike loans and credit cards, there's very little regulation on Afterpay. and it's landed lots of people in many financial difficulties. It's very irresponsible to give someone access to a loan that they can't afford. If you can't make your Afterpay repayments, they can charge you up to 25% of the cost of the item that you bought. This makes the item that you bought really expensive. On top of that, if you used a credit card to link to your Afterpay account, all of those late fees that you then might not be able to afford are then charged interest. So you're paying interest on top of late fees. You get yourself into a really crazy cycle and it becomes really unaffordable for you. So stay away from Afterpay unless you're 100% certain that you can actually afford the repayments. Better yet, save up and use your savings for those items that you can't afford right now with your everyday money, but the money you've put aside, either for your spending or your savings, you could use that instead. When you're applying for a loan or for credit, the bank will look at your credit score. Credit score might be something really boring to you now, but decisions that you're making now could impact your credit score for later when you need to buy a house, or you want to start your own business and you need some money, or when you want to buy a car later. The higher your credit score, the less risky they think you are, which will give you access to lower interest rates or cheaper loans. Alternatively, the lower your credit score, the riskier you are in terms of not being able to repay a loan. In this situation, people often resort to using loans offered to them by what we call loan sharks. Very, very high interest rates charged to people that are desperate for money that they can't afford. Stay away from these types of loans and make good decisions now so that when you need to access debt later, you can do it at lower interest rates. If you want to check your credit score, visit moneysmart.gov.au and search for credit score. So, what are the things that you're doing now that could impact your credit score later? Have you missed any credit card repayments or loan repayments? Maybe not yet, but later on you might. Do you pay any of your bills late? Are you using Afterpay and have you missed any Afterpay repayments? A little bit later on, when you're living from pay to pay and you need a bit of money, are you looking for loans that get you from payslip to payslip? Have you forgotten to update your details somewhere, which could make you hard to find? Banks don't want to be in trouble trying to find you when you owe them money. And are you always looking for loans or credit? Basically, if you're always looking for money or paying things late, this will give you a lower credit rating and make you pay higher interest rates later. Another important tip is to always shop around when you're making decisions that involve money. This might be in relation to simple things like which phone plan am I going to use, or what mechanic am I going to use to service my car each year? Or it might be around big things like I'm going to buy a house and what loan am I going to use and what bank am I going to go to. The important thing to remember is that when you're making these decisions, ask all the questions that you need. Don't feel silly asking questions. You need to understand all of the terms and conditions of any financial contract or any financial decision that you're going to make. You work really hard to earn your money, so you have the right to ask all the questions that you need to in relation to things when it comes to spending your money. Lastly, we're going to talk about phishing and scams. Every day we hear really horrible stories about how people lose money to scammers, all of their hard-earned money, on very simple scams that people fall for. It's really important that you educate yourselves on the warning signs to look out for when it comes to phishing and scams. Phishing is when people are phishing around looking for your data and looking for information about you that they then use against you later to access money or to take out loans in your name or to get your passwords to your accounts and take away your money from your bank accounts possibly. There are various types of scams. They can get access to your details or your accounts. They can steal your passwords. They can pretend to be you to access money. They can even redirect payments from your bank account to different bank accounts. Whatever scam it is, it's always aimed at getting your money. Visit moneysmart.gov.au, search for banking and credit scams to learn about the key warning signs and things to be mindful of. Thank you for listening to me today, and I really hope that you guys learned something. If any of this interests you and you wanted to learn more about it, Just get online and search for any of the key topics. There are heaps of really great resources that you could use to educate yourselves. My biggest bit of advice would be to educate yourselves around anything to do with money and make sure you really understand what it is you're doing before you enter into any type of agreements or loans or anything like that. Thanks for your time, guys.